Concussions, how do they affect athletes? Most people consider concussions bad for athletes. Why? Concussions can cause long-term brain diseases, emotional and mental changes, memory loss, and even death. Concussions can cause long-term brain diseases from the repeated contact to the head. In our source, Concussions in Sports, it states, long-term effects of untreated concussions include illnesses such as Alzheimer's disease, which affects both the brain and body, and CTE, which accelerates to brain failure. Even mild concussions can lead to toxins building up in your brain, which can lead to Alzheimer's or other neurodivergent problems. The second source says, brain scans have shown Alzheimer's disease causes the cerebral cortex to shrink, affecting a person's ability to plan and process information. As the brain shrinks, fluid-filled ventricles that separate various sections of the brain enlarge. You're already losing major parts of your brain and everything is just getting smushed together and smaller. Next is how is mental health being affected by concussions. One of the biggest things we see in concussions is depression. One of our sources says the cumulative effect of multiple concussions may lead to long-term health challenges such as cognitive impairment, depression, and other complications. Because of structural brain damage, persistent inflammation in the head, hormonal imbalances, this can lead to depression. Another source says young children who experience concussions heal more slowly and are at greater risk for long-term problems related to concussions than adults. Concussions in childhood may keep parts of the child's brain from fully developing. This means that mental and emotional reactions to things can be set back from a young age. How do concussions affect memory loss? Getting hit in the head could have effects on the hippocampus or the temporal lobes, which do affect the memory part of your brain. One source says untreated concussions include memory loss and personality changes. After getting hit in the head, you can have damage to brain cells or neural connections, which do affect memory. Our second source for memory loss says, medical research now indicates a connection between concussions that players routinely suffer during games and long-term brain disease, including dementia. Alzheimer's and dementia are the main diseases that contribute to memory loss. Last, how do concussions lead to death? The most common cause for premature death with concussions ends up with second impact syndrome. In one of our sources, it says, second impact syndrome can occur when a person, almost always a teenager, suffers a second concussion before having fully recovered from the first. Swelling crushes the brain's blood vessels inside the skull, which is usually fatal. This really shows why we need to protect our athletes from concussion. If they come back too early, they can make something small even worse. In our next source, it says, professional soccer players were 5 times more likely to die from neurodivergent diseases than other adults. If these athletes weren't athletes and they were just normal adults, they would be living much longer lives. But because of suffering from concussions, it cuts their life short from diseases. This is why it's so important that we protect them. It seems as though we have a lot of information to back up concussions and what they cause. However, someone might say there is no evidence that clearly shows a connection between any of these things. In one of our sources, it says, the lesson Mike Webster taught us was that brains of contact sport athletes may appear normal by the naked eye examination, by routine radiological examination using CAT scans, or by MRI imaging. This would mean without testing and really deep diving into athletes' concussions and their health, we have no idea if these brain issues are just a coincidence or if there's a pattern. Another source says, based upon 3 survey-type studies in retired NFL players and a small number of case reports of neuropathological abnormalities in the brains of retired NFL players, some suggest chronic damage in football players is an epidemic that constitutes a national health crisis. This shows that some people just think it's a total coincidence and that this isn't a problem. Nevertheless, there is quite a bit of information and data that proves otherwise. The athletes are at extreme risk after getting concussions, and that concussions can cause long-term brain diseases like Alzheimer's, mental and emotional changes, memory loss, and, in extreme cases, death. There needs to be even more data and research done to make sure we don't have any more athletes suffering from something bigger after hitting their heads.